Welcome back to another star-studded episode of the Chatterbox with King Jacob, and I am yours truly, King Jacob. So tonight on another Thumping Thursdays edition, we have a great topic, man. We're going to be talking about from thug life to ministry with none other. This man, I've been trying to get this brother on here for a long time, man. None other than my brother, man, Columbia, South Carolina, Brother Alonzo. What's up, man?
What's going on, King Jacob, man? I can't complain.
Everything good, man. Everything good, man. So, man, I've been watching your movement, man. Yeah, you did a lot within the community. Um, you got you got the a strong movement with the Men of God tour. You know what I mean? Man, when you say the Men of God tour, bro, I don't know if people really understand, but that speaks so many volumes when you have a whole movement called the Men of God Tour, and when we are losing so many black men in the streets to gun violence, et cetera, et cetera. So, without further ado, I'm gonna go and let you introduce yourself to the audience so they can familiarize themselves with who you are.
Cool. Well, it's night right now. I was about to say good afternoon, everybody, but I'm Brother Alonzo Canzater from Columbia, South Carolina. Ex-gang leader. Now I'm out here. I used to tear down my community. Now my main focus is and goal is to build a community in a divine way with the help of God. Just like the King was talking about, we got a tour right now that's called From Gangsters to Godly Men. It's just informing people that you don't have to be a gangster. You don't have to be who the media oppose us to be, because we was meant to be more than gangsters. We was born and created to be worshipers of God and kings, because we serve a king, and we've been made in the image of God, and God not a gangster, man. He's a gentleman. I'm also the founder of the Christian Lounge in Columbia, because I used to do gangster music, and I used to be at all the open mics, but now I do gospel hip hop. Excuse me, hip hop music. And I realized when I was doing gospel hip hop music, that wasn't a platform for gospel hip hop artists. I used to go to the open mics at the club to perform gospel hip hop music. And then once the open mic started shutting down a little bit, God gave me the vision of the Christian Lounge, a platform where gospel artists can come in and to perfect their gift and show off their talents and gift for the kingdom of God. I'm a landscaper. Me and my fiance, we got our own organization called Brothers and Sisters Improving Communities. Is civic engagement, anything that impacts our community as a people, from criminal justice reform, feeding people that's dealing with homelessness, mentoring in the school prison ministry. So we tap into all that, even engaging with informing people on voting, um, also holding, elected officials accountable, building power in our communities. And I'm also a member of the Gangs and Peace organization in Columbia, South Carolina. So
Mm,
I'm tapped into anything when it comes to empowering our community, man. That's
okay.
usually
Okay.
some.
So we're gonna get into all that. We're gonna get into, the turn up for Jesus is real. Appreciate that, Jazz Johnson, for tuning in, tapping in, and
My fiance,
yeah,
Johnson.
okay, and definitely invite your people on, and it's a blessing to have you, here with him on this podcast and pushing the podcast, and we're gonna get into all that, that she just posted in the comment section. So let's talk about it, man. The lifestyle of a gang leader, a gangster, you know, um, the whole thug life movement mentality, man. How did you get into that lifestyle at such a young age?
Really, it started for me just being like I'm what they consider a project baby. You know what I mean? I grew up in the projects, every project in Columbia, South Carolina I stayed in. So I was in the era when it was just neighborhoods. You know, it depends on what neighborhood you was from. If we went to the skate rain house party, the Columbia Mall, then you was repping your neighborhood. But then I was in the era when it crossed over to the gangs. You know what I mean? Just so happened the communities that I'm from, Crane Forest and Old Percival Road, Northeast Side Columbia, it was gangster disciples, you know what I mean? So I became a product of my environment, you know. So and just being a product of my environment, it was a lot of drug dealing, prostitution, killing. There was a lot of that going on. Mainly everybody used to have hoop dreams, you know what I mean? Thought they was gonna go to the NFL, the NBA, but when that didn't work out, we didn't have a backup plan. So most of our role models that we saw in our community that had the money, had the jewelry, had the nice cars, were drug dealers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty much adapting to that environment. I became what I surrounded myself around. You know what I mean? So if
Okay.
I surrounded myself around gangsters, thugs, and all that, I became that. But I grew up around the killers and the drug dealers. So just them pouring into me at a young age, with me not really having that male role model to show me something different. Like I tell people growing up, my role model was a rapper slash drug dealer. That's who I looked up to. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I end up getting into that lifestyle. But as you know, as we can see now in society, every generation it gets worse. So in my era, we was the ones gang banging, shooting, selling the drugs, but we had morals. We was all about respect. You respect me, I respect you. It's all love. You disrespect me, I might disrespect you 10 times harder. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but so it was just, tapping into that culture during the time, even if you look at, when it comes to rap music and hip hop music, whatever the culture is in our communities, hip hop and rap music was a part of our culture. It what created us as beings in the African American community, especially as a young male. So I grew up in the era with Snoop Dogg, DMX, Cash Money, C Murder, guys like that. So this idolizing those guys and watching Scarface, Menace to Society, every neighborhood had the old dog, but I was more like Kane. I was more the wise guy. Like I
Mm-hmm.
always told myself, like even back then, before the FBI had came and snatched up the crew I used to roll with, we was in the trap house one day, and I was like, I'm gonna be the one that's still here to tell the story, because we know somebody gonna grow up and end up on drugs, because everybody ain't gonna make it. Somebody gonna end up in prison. Somebody gonna end up killed. And me knowing these things, God was talking to me back then, but I was just ignoring it. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be the one to make it out. So when God called on me, like the Bible say, many are called, but a few are chosen. I was chosen since I was born. That's why I was a leader. I was like 140 pounds, probably leading over 100 soldiers. But I always look at like, man, why they look at, when I look in the mirror, I see a little skinny guy, little, but
Mm-hmm.
God had gave me that authority even back then, but I was using it for the devil's kingdom. And once I was enlightened on that,
Mm-hmm.
everything turned around for me. You know what I mean? Like, and that what made me get away from the street life, because sometimes we can see things coming, but we ignore the signs. I was one of the ones that paid attention to the signs, like, yo, this junk designed to destroy us and kill us, man. I can't do this no more.
Okay. Okay. So, oh man, what a remarkable and interesting and story. I've been following all your platforms, and I said, man, cause I'm from a little small town called Saluda, South Carolina, but I've had the experience of living in Washington D.C., Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Miami area, and just had the pleasure of traveling the world through the music form,
Mm-hmm.
through the management side. And so when I see you, I said, you know, um, I seen my homegirl Latasha Reed share a post of yours. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And I said, man, this got interesting, man. I was like, let me tap in to see who he is and see what he about. And so I tapped in. I said, you know what? It's a story behind him. This ain't something that you just do what he's doing overnight. You know
Oh,
what I mean? He had to have some traction. There's a transition that God made in his life for him to become who he is. So I said to myself, let me reach out to him. And we talked back and forth through Messenger a few times and whatnot, and just never got around to it. And I said, you know what? This is gonna be this is gonna be the week that I definitely really talked with him on the podcast. And so here we are. So upon you being a leader of a game, what age did you become this leader? Or were you a very young leader, or was it when you got out of your high school years?
well, in middle school, I was considered as a set king, because, like I always say, I had the wisdom to lead. You know what I mean? I always had a gift that people followed me, and people was always drawn to me. You know what I mean? And but in high school, when I was 17, I became OG when I was 17 years old, because um it wasn't because, like, people like, did you kill somebody? Nah, I had leadership skills way before I even knew, like, the stuff you see me doing now. When I was gang banging, we had a basketball team. Um, any day we can go to different neighborhoods and bring everybody together and go to the club, rent vans out and go to the club 100, 200 deep. So I was organizing at a young age, just didn't know what it was. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what made me become an OG at a young age at 17, because I could organize people, I could move people. And
Hmm.
everybody had that gift to move people.
Right, right, right. So upon you being OG at 17, man, and when you just sit back and think, like, man, it's over 140 people, and they value and listen to what I say.
Mm.
And so from that perspective, on back then, how did that kind of embrace your mindset mentally, emotionally, and physically?
Um, mentally, um, back then I had like a carnal mind, you know what I mean? So it was more mentally, it was like, well, I'm the big dog, you know what I mean? Like, I got the power. Emotionally, when I got to an age when I was trying to put everybody on a level, because I used to look at it like this. I'm from Northeast Columbia. So I remember when the Mexicans came over. I remember when the Koreans, and before it came international Decker. And I was like, y'all, we over here talking about we run these communities, but we don't own nothing. You feel me? It's 100 plus of us, and we don't own not one building. You know what I mean? So I started lighting guys on this, like, if we put our money together, buys a club or buys a restaurant. We got people that's gifted. Let's invest in each other and put our money together. But emotionally, it was stressful, because it was like nobody see the vision. Everybody want to fight, shoot, bang, and get street cred, but no one is planning for the long term. You know what I mean? So, and then the disloyalty. I went to jail 20 times pretty much for the set, for the game. Never told, never fold, always took my own charge. But 9 times out of 10, everything I did, it wasn't because people had beef with me. It's because they had beef with somebody I was affiliated with, and doing, like, I got 2 felonies for gun charges. I was the one who had the guns. So it was like people would always come get me because they knew bruh got a scrap and he gonna shoot or whatever, whatever. but it was like I started seeing like they using me. There's no loyalty, and then they only respect you when you get money. Because when I doing my transition, God had delivered me from what was going to destroy me the most. So the first thing He delivered me from was selling drugs. Not knowing when I got saved in 2010, 2013, the FBI came and got my closest associates. You know what I mean? So if I would never answer that call, I never accepted the deliverance that God was trying to do, you wouldn't have seen me here today.
Mm.
You so it was so emotional and physically it affected me because when I quit selling drugs, I was no longer making the money that I used to, and people they respected me, but they looked down on me.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because so when the young ones that I paved the way for started making money, they felt like they had the power, but they didn't
Mm.
know what true power was. Like, bro, I used to tell them that's not gonna get you on, even with today's society. These young ones out here doing so much, following up social media, and these rappers, they thinking it's gonna get them on. But I had this saying I used to tell my young ones, that's not gonna get you on. That's gonna get you gone, bro.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Ooh. Well, you
So,
said a mouthful right there. Wow,
so
man.
it affected me physically so much that man, I had lost a lot of weight. I was like 120 because I went from creating trap houses to sleeping in the trap houses. You know what I mean? With the drug addicts because I had nowhere to go. Some of those same friends when I had the houses and the apartments, you know what I mean, and they would stay at my house. I couldn't even stay in my house or my apartment. I used to have to go get hotels because everybody was at my house from the living room to the hallway to the bedrooms to the kitchen floor. People was laid out. You know what I mean? And I had all the weed, so they knew they was gonna get high. You know what I mean? I would buy the liquor, and they just knew it was always gonna be a party. But once God delivered me from all that, my transition, when I didn't know what was taking place, um, everybody turned their back on me.
Mm.
And I remember one day I was sitting in my living room crying. And I'm talking about when I was sitting in, it used to be times my door was always knocking, knocking, knocking. People coming by. What you doing, Slimo? What you doing? But then when I changed for the good, I no longer saw those same friends, man. My phone always used to ring all the
Now
time.
back up, Brother Alonzo.
Mm,
What your rap name used to be?
Slimo G.
Oh yeah, we done met before.
Mm,
Yeah, back in the day, we definitely met before, and um, I got a cousin um down that way. He was murdered by the police by the name of Boss Hog, and his uh his brother, we call him Banger, and so I was traveling through Columbia, around that same time when Boss G and Piezo and all
mm,
them boys was really really hot. Collard Green and
yeah. Boy,
all, Mr. Flip, all them boys. So when you said your rap name, I was like, oh yeah, I
yeah.
definitely. So I really had forgot about that, bro, and because I had been following your new movement. So, but when you just mentioned your old rap name, I was like, oh, that's who I'm talking to right now. Oh, okay then.
I was
So
I was the movement before Ball G. When I
right,
felt Ball G, my movement started following Ball G because Ball G is my first cousin.
okay,
Us was affiliated together. Like so, once I fell back with the music, Ball G came along, and then everybody from my side of town that used to was my entourage, they started following Ball G because he was like that's my family, and they
Mhm,
knew of
man.
me. Mm-hmm.
Right, right. Okay, okay, okay. So I remember, a lot was going on back then. So, South Carolina is such a small state, man, and so I noticed, man, that the gang culture got heavy in South Carolina. Columbia, Charleston, Orangeburg, Greenville, Spartanburg, places like that. Um, why do you think it got so heavy just suddenly, all of a sudden? You know, um, back in the day, you had your homies that you rock with, or your neighborhoods that you rock with, man, and
Mm,
it wasn't really a gang culture, but then, about early '90s, mid '90s, it got rough because I remember me um hanging out with my cousin that went to Benedict College, and one of my other cousins used to hustle at Saxon Homes, so I used to stop by and see him and ask him what's up and whatnot, man. And he used to tell me, "Okay, yo, cuz, hey, man, before you come through here, let me know, man, cause it ain't really a place for a new face to be, and
oh yeah,
people don't, what I'm saying." And he was like, "And I'm gonna need you to stay out the colony too, bro.
yeah.
I don't care what chick tell you to come through there. You tell her to meet you somewhere else. I'm gonna need you to stay out in the colony, cause somebody called and told him, oh, I seen your cousin in the colony, bro.
Mm,
Like, hey, man, and hey, bro." He's like, man, they called and told me. I said, hey, sir, I'm gonna get on. He
mm,
said, man, don't you take your to that colony no more.
yeah,
He was like, cause you don't live in Columbia, so a lot of things go down in the colony. You won't have no recollection of why it's going down, but you can definitely get the wrath from it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And, and so back in them times, Saxon Holmes and the colony was out the hook. So
Mm.
so why do you think the gang culture hit South Carolina all of a sudden?
Because poverty, man. I'm telling you, like everybody was seeking a family. You know what I mean? Like, and being from the hood, like my next album is called The Diary of the Underdog. Cause being from the hood, man, you're an underdog. You know what I mean? And sometimes just because of where you from and the way it's set up, you know what I mean? When I'm talking about the way it's set up for us to fail, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. But I started banging in 98. You know what I mean? I was banging from 98 to 2010. So but I realized what made it grow even more was um I'm be honest, hip hop. They commercialized it. You know what I mean? Because I remember in South Carolina, there was a lot of Crips one time. You had Bloods, not that many, but you had a lot of Crips because you had the Snoop era. But then you had the Bloods because you had the Mac 10 era. You know what I mean? But also, um, once every neighborhood, like I said, when it was neighborhood, once everybody pretty much like Saxon used what they were Saxon hot boys. They used to wear a lot of red. Okay, cool. They Bloods. But they wasn't Bloods at first, but since they used to wear a lot of red, and then whoever introduced them to the blood movement formed that organization. And then it spread it. Then you had guys who um started the you had the different folk nation organizations that was boots on the ground. So once everything started trending, people who might have got bullied, you know what I mean, was looking for something to join for protection. A family, people that might have been rejects or outcasts, black sheeps in their family, they looking for a family. People ask me, why did I start gang banging? Because I was the black sheep of my family. So I went out and formed my own family. That's why I was so loyal to it because, like I said, we used to wear each other clothes, shoes. You know what I mean? Like bro, you ain't got no place to stay. You good? Come over here. You ain't got no money. We got you. So it was like a family. So everybody was looking for that family that they didn't have growing up. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Then once they start commercializing gangs, I'm gonna tell you how the media start feeding into it. They had shoes called British Knights and Columbia Knights. They had
mm-hmm.
K and CK on it. They start coming out with the bandana outfits. You know what I mean? They start commercializing so much, and you had the rappers that never said they was affiliated with a gang. All of a sudden, they bloods.
Mm,
So the blood nation just start growing like crazy. You know what I mean?
right.
It's growing like crazy, but then you still had your gangster disciples and your Crips on the back end, you know what I mean, doing what they do, you know. But as it started growing, people was getting money. So whatever clique getting the most money, people gravitating to that, and it looked organized. And I tell people now, the reason why the youth is attracted to gangs because of the unity. They're not attracted to church. They're not attracted to righteous organizations because they don't see unity. They don't see numbers. So if they see a gang walking down the street 100 deep, I remember I used to have grown men. I'm 19, 20 years old. Men 30, 40 years old come to me like, yo, I want to get down with y'all movement. This because they saw the unity.
Mm. Okay, okay, okay. So, so tell me about your transition and tell me about how you was unaccepted from people who you thought they love you because God put you on a new journey and transitioned you over to the real winning team.
Man, it was crazy. And to be honest, in 2006, I was facing some time. And I was always knew of Christ, but I didn't know him. Because I grew up in the church till I was about 10 years old, and I went astray. You know what I mean? But because my grandparents was into the ministry and I played the drums, but I always heard of Christ. But that seed that was planted was always in me. I ain't gonna cap. I prayed when I went to jail. If I never prayed in the streets, I prayed when they closed that door, when that cell closed. You know, I knew him then, but he always came through. And um, in 2006, I ran to a church because I had a friend of mine told me that said, bro, I know who can get you out of that situation. And I said, who? He said, Jesus. I'm like, what? He's like, come to church with me. Went to the altar. They prayed over me, man. I just bust out crying. Never cried in the streets, not one time, not even at my homie's funeral. But that day it was like a relief, like a weight off my shoulder. Um, but I tried to finesse God, really. That in 2006, I tried to finesse him. But he's like, you don't even know I'm about to do some stuff in you. But from 2006 to 2009 is when I saw the transition happening and the transformation when I quit selling drugs. Then I quit toting guns. And then 2008, I maxed out my probation. I was supposed to get a year, and the judge, I violated probation 9 times, never got sent up the road. And the judge said, why y'all keep bringing this man in front of me? It was so crazy. I was signed with Dora Records back in the day. Chris Dora, he was my manager, and he came to the court with me because I never had a lawyer when I went to court, nor a public defender. I always represented myself. And the judge asked, was Chris Dora my pastor? I wasn't going to no church. You feel me? So he saw something in the spirit that I couldn't see. In 2010, I was going through, the enemy was trying to attack my mind because I never thought the devil was real. I thought that gangster, I thought that killer, that drug dealer, that's who I am. I got uncles who got murder charges. I got cousins who got murder charges. It's in my DNA to be a killer. You know what I mean? So, but 2010, when I just kept feeling like something on my back. And I met a guy in Dollar Tree one day. I'm shopping and he kept staring at me. You know how we sometimes we do, and I wish that curse break, that when us as black men see each other, we always sizing each other up, mugging. So he looking
Right.
at me, I'm mugging him like, what this man looking at me for? You know what I mean? So when we got to the register, he paid for my groceries because they messing around and rung my groceries up with his. And I was like, man, no, that's mine. He said, nah, you good. He's like, I'm from Marion, and I just came down here and started a ministry, and I would like to invite you. That was divine intervention. Like I said, I was just battling that day, saying that it's something on me that I can't get off me. And next thing you know, favor for a favor, bro. You pay for my groceries. I'm gonna come visit your church.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
church. The first thing he told me, that his first sermon was about the devil. That's all I need to know. The devil was exposed. That was what was on me. And since then, bro, I've been in it. That was 2010. It's 2022 now.
Let's
You know,
talk about it, bro. Talk about it.
you know.
The world need to hear it. The world need to hear this, bro.
So
Because man, listen, anytime you can go from man, a lot of times when people in them streets, man, it's a life of crime. Is people feel like it's excitement. People feel like they just allergic to broke. That you know what else would I be doing if I wouldn't be doing this? And they feel like my daddy did this.
mm,
Okay, my brothers do this. Okay, all my homies did this. Okay, so if I try to change the narrative, then I'm not gonna be accepted. I'm not gonna be loved. And who's gonna really understand me if I try to walk the straight and narrow? They're gonna think I'm a cream puff. They're gonna think I'm soft. And so for you to still make that transition and stand on top of that, bro, that's remarkable. You know what I mean? And that
mm,
ain't something that you did by yourself. That's something that God did for you.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And so, man, just talk about once you was making the transition, how was you still able to stand on top of that transition?
Like, I'm not even gonna lie. When I first got saved and God started changing me, he said, now you got to go back to every community that you influence and tell them about me. He said, some gonna receive it, some gonna reject it. All glory to God by the power of the Holy Spirit, bro. Had about 50, 60 gangbangers going to church with me, to the point the pastor made me over the van ministry, you know. But it was, the transition was because even though I learned about the devil, but when I turned over that new leaf, even some of the people, because I had a few people that looked at me like, it even was a rumor going around that only reason why I started going to church because I was scared the feds was coming. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
But I was almost the first one in my set to almost catch a federal charge. And during that time, I felt like I was about to graduate college because that was my mentality. You know, in the streets, you go to prison, you don't snitch, you come back, you're a superstar. That's why I see a lot of rappers when they go to prison, they come home and catch a solid. It's like their career take off. But those rumors made me go harder because as long as I said this, bro, you don't have to deal with me, you don't have to like me, but you go and respect me. You know, so but they start seeing the change.
Mm-hmm.
When they start, I remember this um to be transparent. When I first got saved, I still was smoking weed, going to church. You know what I mean? But it was one incident while I was in the house with an atheist, a Muslim, Islam, and it was me as a Christian. And one of my homeboys was battling, trying to pick which one
Mm-hmm.
to follow. Everybody was in there smoking and drinking. The last thing I was doing was smoking. and God delivered me from smoking weed. So the atheist was like, hold up. He said his God delivered him. Why y'all still doing what y'all doing? I said, nah, bro, I ain't perfect. I just knew how I dealt, how it used to affect me. But people start seeing God move. So God chose me. I didn't choose God. He chose me to show people, the people who used to think, oh, Jesus ain't real. That is something they put in us from slavery. That's a white man religion. God chose me to show people like, yo, I'm not who people say I am. I am the true and living God, and I can change your life if you allow me. And matter of fact, I'm gonna take the same thing he did Saul and transform him to Paul. But people still remember the work that Saul put in. It's the same thing with me. It's some neighborhoods I go to. Some people still remember Slim OG, but a lot of people know Brother Alonzo. You feel me? That's the transition. But people who knew Slim OG and see what Brother Alonzo is doing, they be like, yo, they watching. And they like, yo, bro, we salute what you're doing. Nah, bro, it's not what I'm doing, it's what God doing. So everything that you see that's taking place, I just want you to know that God is real, and he have no respect of a man. He did it for me, he'll do it for you. Tap in. But
Mm.
but at first it was, I had those bros who tried to talk down on me, and they end up going to federal prison. You feel me? They end up
Mm.
going to prison because when everybody else was following me as I followed Christ, and they tapped into that grace and that favor, and didn't have to do 10, 15, 20 years in prison, those ones who rejected it, God was like, yo, I gotta sit him down and put him in a place where he gonna have to get on his knees and talk to me and try me. But he got too much pride right now. Talking down on me because I got all the G's on the church van. You know what
Mm.
I mean?
Right. And you know, one thing about God, man, He will set you down.
Yeah.
Uh, 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 Things happen in people's lives, and they wonder why. Man, you don't. You gotta. You gotta listen, man. You gotta understand your purpose. And if God, if you don't understand and you disrespectful to God, oh, he gonna set you down. And
Yeah.
see what people don't even understand. Sometimes the things that we may do, it may not even hit us. That thing hit that generational offspring. That thing hit your children, and people be wondering, man, why my kids going through this, or why are they like this? It's because they're your offspring,
Yeah.
and so what's in them, upon them coming from you, is gonna come up out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times people gotta realize, when a person transitions, man, it's for the greater good, for themselves, for people around them, and it's going to inspire somebody else that they don't even know. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for you to be this big gang leader, over 140 people listening to what you say, and when God transitioned you over to the other side,
Mm-hmm.
to make you a better man,
Yeah.
you can get 50 other brothers to walk into a church with you. Boy, look here, man, man, man.
But
That don't happen every day. That don't happen every day.
the flip side to it though, like I was talking to one of my mentors the other day, and I said during that time I had the zeal but no wisdom. So when things happen, because people think when I first got saved, I used to go to the church thinking that people was gonna be different than the streets, but you're still dealing with humans. So they
Right.
have flaws. They not perfect. But as I was immature in my walk during that time, my expectations were so high that I put people in the church on a pedestal that when I kind of made them up like idols. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Not knowing I was doing it, but I did it because I even looked at the pastor as a father figure. So when me and him had a situation that happened occurred, and I left the ministry. It was just that deep. And when I left, I was hurt and I was broken. And most of those guys left.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had the wisdom, I should have trained like what I learned, but I didn't know too much then, like I know now. I should have been training those guys on the back end to continue to walk, sharpening those guys so
Mm-hmm.
that they can be walking strong and boldly in Christ. But I can say this: God, I believe God didn't allow for me to for that to happen during that time because He wanted those brothers not to create me into an idol, if that makes sense. Because sometimes
Exactly.
people idolize us, even the way
Mm-hmm.
they idolize rappers and R&B singers and famous people. You know what I mean? So God had allowed for me to go through things on this walk. People like, what you I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, when I was in the streets, my heart was cold. So I didn't care about a lot. I didn't love a lot. I didn't show affection a lot. But once God purified my heart, because that's what He changed my
Mm-hmm.
heart, my mindset. And next thing you know, when I got hurt, I felt it. So it affected me in a way that it would affect a normal human being.
Mm-hmm.
It was days I cried more as a believer and a child of God than I did in the streets. I
Mm-hmm.
cried to God like, God, why you made my heart like this? Because He purified my heart. But every time I cried and went through those situations, it made me learn. I told a brother the other day, I said, sometimes we lose things and we blame the devil, but God like, nah, that's your fault. You ain't stewarding your money. You ain't saving your money. So that's why you homeless. Every time you get some money, you want to buy an outfit, buy jewelry, you want to do this and do that, spend it on habits, save your money, and you won't be homeless. So it was
Right.
in my life that I lost everything. Stayed in hotels. As a Christian, was walking to work. But God always said, I got you. Because you learn from every mistake. My biggest teacher was my mistakes, brother.
Mm.
My biggest
Well,
teacher.
well, they always say, Brother Alonzo, that experience is the best teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I've always heard, older people say you can only get wisdom from your experiences.
Yeah.
You know, so with that being said, man, you had a remarkable journey, and the journey is just going to get better. So you as a recording artist, transitioning from a secular artist, gangster music, thug life type music, and
Mm-hmm.
now you make, godly music, music that's inviting to the heart and soul, music that shows your conviction and your pain, but that pain turned into beauty. You know what I mean? So the beauty of your pain has helped inspire others and help others understand that they can get out the street too and change it and turn their life around.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the project that you currently have out right now.
The project that I got out now is called The Overcomer. And even on the cover, you see a man in the cell writing. That's why I wrote my first gospel hip hop song at in jail.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
and the overcomer is pretty much that the word of God said that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. So
Mm-hmm.
this whole mixtape, it's a mixtape. This whole mixtape is my testimony, but it's telling you I wasn't the one that changed me. It was by the blood of the Lamb that I overcame these things. And without the blood of the Lamb, the blood of Jesus, I wouldn't be able to do it. And that's the honest truth. Because my flesh is always want to go back to the streets. You feel me? My flesh
Mm.
always wanna is always something in me trying to pull me back to the streets. But I know this time if I go to the streets, the enemy, the devil gonna kill me. You know what I mean? That's what he was trying to do back then. And God was like, nah, you can't. This like Job. You can do everything, but don't kill him.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's like, you gotta think, for you to be on that journey, and God saved you so you can save others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you definitely already won some souls. Like for you to get people out of the streets and have them to come to church with you and have them want to change their life and follow a new direction. That's powerful, man. That's powerful. So, tell me about the brothers and sisters improving communities.
Basic pretty much is me and my fiance Jazz Johnson organization. When God gave me basic, it was like it's time to take it back to the basic. And what does that look like? As we involved in, I done worked a couple campaigns, presidential campaigns, local campaigns. My fiance been working campaigns since high school. Her first campaign was Barack Obama. All 8 years she worked for Obama. So just and with me being a minister and an outreach minister, I saw that a lot of from politics to religion, a lot of people go into these communities, our communities, and think they know what we need. So they might go out there, do a cookout or a back to school bash and all that, but don't build no relationship. So what does the basic look like? Taking it back to the basic is building relationship with the communities. When you build relationship, you build trust. When you got trust, you got love. No contact, no impact. So you cannot make an impact on a community or people if you don't have no relationship. This whole
Mm.
walk with Christ is about relationship, music business, relationship. Anything you do in life, even a marriage or friendship, is about relationship. If there's no trust and no love, the foundation is not strong. So with basic, it stands for brothers and sisters improving communities, because also we realize that it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a movement to make an impact. That's why gangs are so impactful, like we were just talking about. So we realize we can't do the work ourselves. So we have to connect with other brothers and sisters to really improve our communities. We have to come together as a force, as a movement. So when people see this movement, they're like, whoa, who is that? I want to know more about that organization. How can I become a part of this organization? Because I see the unity and I see all of y'all might not be the same organization, but y'all connected. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
that's all brothers and sisters improving communities about. So that's our mentoring. When I put that mic down, that's why I say about a lot of music artists. When you put the mic down, what's next? When you walk off stage, what next? Do you go home, get high, get drunk? Bro, you wasting your life. When I put that mic down, now it's time for community work. It's time boots on the ground, grassroots. It's time to build my community now. So when that lines up with my work, my music must line up with my work that I do in the community. So I'm pushing a positive message, and then I'm pushing a positive movement to show people like everybody don't have to be gangsters. We got enough gangsters.
Mm.
We need
Yeah.
more kings. We need more Martin Luther Kings. We need more um Malcolm X. We need more positive leaders in our community to lead as example. And that's all basically it. Even when we do our mentoring at the high schools, we pouring this wisdom and knowledge and understanding into these children to catch them before the media or the so-called culture that they paint for us brainwash them, and then next thing you know, we got a generation that's lost.
Man, that's deep, man. That's deep. And the brothers and sisters improving community is a whole different podcast that we'll do too, with
Yeah,
you and your fiance on the podcast, man. So we can get really in the bulk of how
yeah,
it was created and um get get into the particulars of the different levels of the brothers and sisters improving communities and how people can be a part of it, not just locally, but just from all across the globe. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? Because that's something that needs that we need in every community, man. So, and last but not least, man, let's talking about the levels and the things that the Christian Lounge is going to do for gospel recording artists.
Well, so far the Christian Lounge been. I tell people all the time. I used to work a job. I'll make this quick. And God gave me the vision of Christian Lounge in 2010, but I procrastinated fear. So I was working jobs, and God said, leave this job and birth the vision I gave you. And I allowed fear to get in the way, I I stayed on that job, and I almost got killed on the job. I used to do road work and I almost got hit by a truck driver on 385 because I was worrying about financially how I was going to provide and take care home and all this type of stuff. And God allowed for me to walk off that job. Took a little while, but I end up getting a little settlement and start working the campaign or whatever. But the Christian Lounge was birth. I used to charge $10 to get in, and sometimes people didn't have any money. So God said, stop charging people to get in. And he said, because I don't want nobody to miss what I'm doing. Are you
Hmm.
building your kingdom or God's kingdom? And so I said, well, I'm trying to build your kingdom. And he said, quit charging people. Um, so throughout the years, once a month we was doing an event. Um, and we had outgrown every building, every venue we ever rented. We outgrown it. The first event had 60 people. The next month it was 100 people. The month after that is 150, 200. It was just growing outrageous. And um God, when we start outgrowing buildings, and God gave me a tour. He said, now I want you to take this movement on the road, because this is not anywhere else. I've been to one Christian club, and that was in Atlanta. It's called the Sanctuary. That was back in the day. I had to pay $25 to get in, $25 to perform 2 songs, $50 in Decatur, Georgia. It was a Christian club. So um as we grew, we had people coming from all over Texas, Chicago, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina to come to the Christian Lounge, and it was
Wow.
Charleston, Bamberg, all over South Carolina, Orangeburg, but they was coming from other states too, Savannah, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. And as we grew, God said, take it on the road. So God gave me the Love Thy Neighbor tour. So Love Thy Neighbor tour was going to the communities before we perform any music. We doing a prayer walk. We walking these communities, praying with the people, engaging with the people, letting them know who we are. And we doing the concert. We feeding people. We doing giveaways. We did one in Bethel Bishop. We did one in Bishopville, South Carolina, Bamberg, South Carolina. And then after that, God told me many tours are going to birth from the Christian Lounge.
Mm.
And now we on tour with From Gangsters to Godly Man tour. And this is more of a ministry that's going to go into the prisons, that's going to go into the schools, they're going to go into the streets to show men that, hey, you don't have to be a gangster. When we most of these guys, you saw the flyer. One of the guys got tattoos in his face. That's the background he come from. A lot of these guys got testimonies that's so powerful it make you cry. And we don't wear suits and ties. These guys wear J's. These guys got jewelry. These guys got gold teeth. These guys are one of them he crunk dance and rap. You know what I mean? These guys are so powerful and they
Mm-hmm.
old for Jesus and will walk up on a gangster, will walk up on a drug dealer and tell them Jesus love them. Can I pray for you, brother? Without no fear.
I
Because they
love it. I love it.
backgrounds. So the
I
Christian,
love it, bro. I love it.
yeah. And now we've
And
been
I
blessed with the building.
right, and I had a chance to, I messaged your homie Israel, and because I definitely want to get him on the podcast as well, and
Mm.
I just appreciate what you guys are doing. I appreciate the vision that you put into other people. Is so one thing is that by the vision that God put into you, but when you can take that vision and absorb it into somebody else and make their life better than they ever thought
Mm.
it could be, that's powerful. That's powerful, man. So I want you to give everybody where they can reach you at, man, and tap in with them and tell them what you got coming up, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Okay. So you can find me on social media, all social media platforms. For our organization, you go on Facebook, just go in the search bar, put in brothers and sisters improving communities. Um, excuse me. Also for the Gangs and Peace movement, you can put in Gangs and Peace on Facebook, and you can for to follow me with the music, with the tours, you can put in Love Thy Neighbor tour on Facebook, or you can put in From Gangsters to Godly Men in the search bar on Facebook, and all the pages gonna pop up. And then for my personal page, it's Alonzo Canzater, which I share also everything that we're doing with tracks right back to the pages where you can keep up what we're doing in the community. The book the tour, you can call me at 803-888-0508 to book us to come to your ministry, your community events to come perform. You can contact me at those numbers. So I'm not hard to reach, and I'm not Hollywood. If you call or text, I'm gonna call you right back. You ain't gotta go through nobody. You'll talk directly to me.
He definitely ain't Hollywood. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Nah,
He
man.
definitely ain't Hollywood. He's a real humble brother, and so, um, I got something that I do want to share with you, and I'll give you a call. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And yeah, I got something for you though, for sure.
Appreciate
Cause you my brother. I love you, brother, and
it.
I
Love you too.
love how you let God use you, man. You know what I mean? It's powerful. It's powerful because I see so many brothers that go into prison, they'll never come back home. I see so many brothers leave their mama house and their mama never see them again. Like so, for me, this is powerful for me. You know what I mean? And you are a blessing to me, to my spirit, directly to my soul. And so I just want to say I appreciate you, man. And
Man,
it's
appreciate
all
you
love.
inviting
Yes,
me
sir.
on the podcast, man. I see it going, I see it elevating, man, going all across the nation, all across the world, man. Just stay consistent, keep doing what you're doing. It don't matter, man. Don't let nobody stop your vision, King.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. So, y'all, we thank y'all for tuning in. Another Star Stutter episode of the Chatterbox with King Jacob. And man, we just want y'all to stay encouraged, stay blessed, and always keep the peace. Once again, y'all take care of yourself. Blessed weekend. We out of here.